This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin Freakin.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live. It's a freaking Sunday. It's a freaking historic day for America, as everyone had the chance to truly appreciate the gravity of the news that we learned earlier, that President Joe Biden will not be seeking a second term. He has stepped aside, has endorsed Kamala Harris as the party's nominee. Still going to be a process. Still going to be a little messy. One-term Andy over here. Clinically, Sky Comet, Warlord, good evening. We're not high enough for this shit. I was planning on doing a normal Troll Patrol show. I guess that's out the window now. I didn't even prepare. We're going to listen to RFK Jr. He gave a speech earlier. We're not going to listen to the whole goddamn thing. He talked way too long. Reaction from voters. Republicans planning on throwing up legal challenges. All sorts of the inside baseball on what's going on inside of the Democratic Party tonight. I don't know that he's even going to live to see the end of his first term, to be honest with you. He almost certainly wouldn't live through a second term. He looks like he's going to die any second. Also, we're on Biden dies of COVID watch. He is currently still in Delaware. As far as I know, I don't think he has made his way back to D.C. He's still in Delaware. Recovering from the pain of having to drop out of the race. Recovering from the symptoms of COVID. Coffee is so good. I love coffee. Anyway, I think I've got a chase. If you are good for the Biden Kamala coverage here, you get a police chase out of Milwaukee, which just played host to the Republican National Convention that I barely made it through this past week. Zon, good evening. Welcome. I am not high enough for whatever shit we're going to be talking about tonight. I've got a few crime stories I want to cover. Some shit that we might have not been able to get to last week because of the convention. So we're going to play catch up. We're going to find out what that news be doing. We're going to find out the latest on the Biden DNC saga. All that and a lot freaking more tonight on the Troll Patrol Live. Also, the revelation that RFK Jr. is apparently Sky Comet's third cousin. Hazemaker, good evening. Hazemaker 420. I should make some haze 420 right now. Here is your meme of the day. Worm-brained idiot. It's better than being donkey-brained. I actually have a certificate that says I do not have donkey brains. What you gonna do, brother? Not donkey brained. I have a certificate that says I am not donkey brained. Ellie Gay Payton, what is going on? Namaste. Namaste, my friend. Welcome in. Libertad, good evening. So glad to see everyone. Sunny and lovely northern. I bet this time of year, northern Michigan's the place to be. To be completely honest with you, out on the lake, enjoying the what do they call this? Is this the dog days of summer? The backside of the summertime. I wouldn't mind being up in Canada right now. I bet it is fantastic in Canada. Let's go to the live feed in NBC.
And the decision evolved.
Biden drops out.
And it was what they referred to as close hold, meaning only the closest people were aware that he was about to make this decision before he alerted his campaign.
They have been forest fires in Canada.
Officials.
That makes sense. It's been dry.
What comes next? The president, of course, is still dealing with COVID.
California ravaged by fires right now.
Better from that, and he continues to take Paxlovid. We will expect to learn more about when he will address the nation publicly. That is expected sometime this week.
He may never address the
He
nation.
and the vice president had multiple conversations today. Lester?
Kelly, do we know if there was a tipping point that sent the president to make the final call?
A combination of things based on our reporting, where the president was basically looking at what are the chances. We know the number of voices within the Democratic Party who had come out publicly to tell him they wanted him to step aside. He had looked at his own situation of donors and changes in the support he was feeling from that group as a big part of it. As you know from your conversation with him recently, he had said 14 million Americans voted for him during the primary process, and he wanted to listen.
We are on Biden dies of COVID watch.
Almighty and his own well-being. Any kind of a medical issue could be things that could interfere with his quest to seek a second term.
Currently recovering.
He found additional polling
in
was presented to him over the weekend that looked at how Kamala Harris would do against Donald Trump. Also looking at his own chances, and the weight of all those combination of factors finally got the president to a place, reluctantly and in a very human way, in a disappointed way, getting to this decision. And timing incredibly important, with the Republicans just coming off of their convention where they showed unity. Democrats had been fractured over his debate performance and his age, and now he's making a decision that can chart the course for his party. It's not set yet, as you know.
I mean, I said all this week, I was like, the time for him to sit down, the best time would have been Thursday, the next best time would have been Friday, the next best time would have been this weekend.
Joined now by Meet the Press moderator Kristen.
Shut the fuck up, Lester.
You're talking to within the Democratic Party that Kamala Harris can clinch this nomination.
Well, Lester, they're confident and they're hopeful. And I just spoke with a top Democratic lawmaker who said there is a new energy that has been infused into this race, which has been totally upended. Donors are coming back and asking, this person said, where can they donate? How quickly can they send their money? Because it takes one big factor off the table, Lester. Remember that head-to-head polling.
Lester's all right. I give Lester a hard time.
This rematch between Biden and Trump. Well, now there is no rematch between Biden and Trump. And Vice President Kamala Harris
I'm so relieved.
The new face in this race. Now, yes, of course, she has served as vice president, but I've been talking to sources who say this is a chance really for her to reintroduce herself to the American people. They also, her supporters, believe as though she's found her voice on issues from reproductive rights as well as voting rights, for example. So they are feeling energized. One Democrat said they are breathing a sigh of relief. There is now someone to prosecute the case against former President Trump. I think you're going to hear that word prosecute a lot, Lester. Remember, Kamala Harris is a former prosecutor.
Play to her strengths.
Hails from the great state of California. And now
they're going to run a criminal, we'll run a prosecutor.
With that part of her background, that she's prosecuting the case against former President Trump. She just sent out her first...
AGAB means Harris too, but we need a bastard.
As I hit the campaign trail to meet with Americans and lay out the choice in front of voters in the fall, I cannot imagine too much...
How are you feeling, Libertad?
We want our country to
but
go.
We're a couple weeks removed from the election,
less freedom and
from the landslide
choose to pull together
that brought labor into power.
So in order to clinch this nomination,
Sticks, good evening.
It's going to be a virtual roll call. The goal will be for her to get the nomination there. If not, if she...
Sticks, how are you feeling?
We're going to see
Governor Roy Cooper.
Look, some Democrats
on the short list to possibly be the vice president.
The bottom line is, Lester, there is
the vice presidential candidate for the Democrats.
This race.
It seems, though, Kristen, like this is going to be a delicate dance. I mean, she's she's got to start raising that money right now, as you suggested. She already has put out an appeal. But at the same time, she is probably waiting for the president to make his remarks public. We understand with his COVID diagnosis, his voice may not be up to it, but it feels like this could be a very awkward window we're watching.
Hello.
You're right about that, Lester. And think about it. This entire period.
Is it me you're looking
for the vice president and the president? We know, as Kelly just laid out, he was looking at polling, not just his own, but polling for
my top two were Cooper and Bashir.
Up against former President Trump.
Those two are who it should be.
Some of the potential people that she might want to pick as a running mate. Of course, looking at a lot of those governors who hail from battleground states all across the country. Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan.
No.
Another name that gets a lot of buzz, Governor Gavin Newsom from California. Tough to see two people running from California, but look, just to give you a sense, there are a lot of names right now, a lot of different moving parts that need to fall into
I think
place.
it should be Cooper or it should be Bashir.
Chicago unified behind a nominee and a running mate. So, Lester, that's the goal, I am told. Will they
Pritzker third.
accomplish that? That remains.
J.D. Pritzker would be my third
you and I
pick.
were in Milwaukee together, Lester, and we continued night after night to talk about.
Bashir is the governor of Kentucky currently.
Within the Republican Party.
I think it should be Roy Cooper.
Compared to 2016, the unity behind
the governor of the outgoing governor of North Carolina.
To Democrats to make this decision in short order because they know, look,
Eddie Bashir, the outgoing governor of Kentucky,
and they've got to get going if they want to take on Trump.
All right, Kristen Walker, thank you. For Vice President Kamala Harris, today's endorsement by President Biden and now her potential path to the presidency represent the latest chapter.
White milquetoast white man Democrat. That's Andy Bashir. That is Roy Cooper.
More.
The spotlight tonight turning to Vice President Kamala Harris, one of President Biden's most vocal backers since that debate widely panned as disastrous.
It was a slow start. There's no question about that. But I thought it was a strong finish. We are looking at a president in Joe Biden who has done historic work.
Now, the president's endorsement of Harris puts her in the pole position to take the top of the ticket. Harris, in a statement today, saying in part, "I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination." Adding, "We have 107 days until Election Day. Together we will fight, and together we will win." In recent days, some of the president's key allies have signaled if he were to step aside, it is Harris who should get Democrats' support.
This party should not in any way do anything to work around Ms. Harris.
Congressman Jim Clyburn today publicly backing Harris.
Tat, are you saying you guys are over politics? There isn't like a sense of relief that the Labor Party is in charge now?
Praising the president for his service. Whether it's Harris at the top of the ticket or not, other Democrats have been speculated to be in the mix, perhaps as a running mate, including California Governor Gavin Newsom.
President Biden doesn't run. Why shouldn't we consider you a likely candidate?
Well, I think the vice president is naturally the one lined up.
Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro, Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer, Kentucky's Andy Bashir, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Harris, a former prosecutor who rose to become California's attorney general, was elected to the Senate in 2016 and ran for the White House 3 years later.
I love my country.
Quesadilla.
And I feel a sense of responsibility to stand up and fight for the best of who we are.
After being selected as President Biden's running mate, she was tapped by the White House to lead the administration's response on critical.
Don't forget, she's got Big Sister General.
Immigration crisis coming under fire from Republicans for the White House's handling of the border. And
Little Sister Prosecutor, Big Sister General.
We've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that
you've never been to Europe.
Counting the importance of the border.
Harris has taken on.
I find that hard to believe.
For abortion access, slamming the GOP for its position on reproductive rights.
How dare
Como estas?
what she can do and can
Good evening, Holiday.
body. How dare they?
Now a pivotal political moment for Harris and the nation.
First to say, when you get knocked down, you get back.
And Hallie Jackson joins me now, as well as Chuck Todd, NBC News chief political analyst. Good to have you both here. Hallie, let me start with you. How critical for the Democrats are these next 24 to 36 hours?
Pretty critical, I think it's fair to say, Lester, especially with what you've seen even over the course of the last 6 to 8 hours here since this announcement came out. It has been somewhat remarkable, the speed by which some of those names we mentioned in that piece you just watched, those names of people who could potentially challenge Kamala Harris for the top of the ticket or become her running mate have come out and endorsed her. We're talking about, for example, Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina has come out now and done the same. An indication here that the Democratic Party is moving quickly to try to solidify behind Kamala Harris to a degree to show that level of unity that you and that Kristen were talking about earlier as you're looking now at some of those notable endorsements for Kamala Harris, including, of course, from such big names in the party as the Clintons, as Congressman Clyburn, who was critical, remember, in getting President Biden's campaign back in 2020 up and running and helping him win the nomination back then. So for Democrats, there is, I think, a real question.
The Globementum is behind.
I'll tell you, though, Lester, that is
Kamala Harris.
And I just had a conversation with a Democratic member of Congress about this, by the idea that they don't want this to look as though the process is moving so quickly that it's leaving voters out. I think there is a sense that they do want to make sure that there is a process that includes the will of the voters, that this does not appear that it's simply being pulled by
Giant Meteor 24.
Significant, I think, nod to.
I don't think it's that dire.
The question's going to be, what does the roll call look like?
I can understand how somebody be like, just end it all.
Work at a convention, but what
I can understand the cynicism.
4 weeks tomorrow is the start of the Democratic convention. What does Chicago look like, Lester?
And Chuck, I was speaking to Jason Miller of the Trump campaign a few minutes ago. It's clear they're going to go after the areas in which Kamala Harris was leading the administration's efforts, including the border. Are they looking?
I think that's a strength for her. She went down to Guatemala and said, "Don't come here."
Well, I think they're going to be a little.
I've shut so many right-wingers up with that clip.
Of the Democratic Party that isn't going to be afraid to say the word. It was one of those. There were a lot of Democrats quietly grumbling about President Biden sometimes on this issue. He sort of the language has changed on him from when. From a majority of the time he was in office. But I really think they're going to go hard.
Yeah, he won't say abortion because he's Catholic.
Define her as she was the person that pulled Joe Biden to the left, right? They'll actually try to start praising Biden some by saying, and Harris was one pulling him to the left. It's why the combination of that and the border issue, I think Mark Kelly, and I'm hearing from more people close to her, that Mark Kelly, look, she's got to, and I think she ought to use this process to interview a wide range of people for the running mate position. I've heard Mark Milley's name tossed about.
What?
Admiral McRaven, a couple of retired members of the military.
Yeah, fuck that.
Way for the country to get to know her. It sucks up a little bit more oxygen. But Mark Kelly would probably be the running mate that the Trump campaign would fear the most, because he would be there to neutralize on the border. He was very critical constantly of both President Biden and Vice President Harris on the border. He had to coming.
I think Trump will debate. I think that'll be a thing.
Tangible factors. This is a family touch.
We're going to talk about Republican lawsuits here in a second.
It's one of those. It reminds people that this is a bipartisan issue we're trying to deal with.
Is this an animating moment, though, when you step back, an animating moment for a party that just spent the last several days watching Republicans in what at times felt like a love fest, frankly?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it a love fest.
On President Biden to do what he did. I think when you saw, this is a very unified Republican Party, the most unified arguably since George W. Bush in 2004. And, you know, there was a lack of energy. There was a lack of enthusiasm. We've been seeing it all year.
No, I am on the Harris bandwagon specifically because it's going to piss Hillary off.
A very low turnout election. The country had told us they didn't really want to see it. The presidential debate, which of course sparked all of this, Lester, the lowest rated first presidential general election debate we ever had. Fewer people tuned into it. People thought
it was in June.
All of a sudden now there's a massive plot twist. And I think you're going to see more people engaged. And it's an opportunity for both former President Trump and Vice President Harris, because I think there's an extra group of voters who had sort of given up on the system that they were giving them two unpopular candidates, and they might take a listen.
And Hallie, we have, of course, not seen the president come out. He is still apparently suffering the effects of COVID. But how important is that?
We are indeed on
with Vice President Harris in the Rose Garden or some other location.
Yeah, or wherever it may be, and of course, presuming that he is, in fact, appearing with the vice president. It's an important moment for the country, Lester. It's an important moment for Democrats, but it's also an important moment for history. Remember how extraordinary this is here. This is a generational thing. We haven't
because
seen
you
this
are
in decades, something like this.
all of what has come before you.
Like this here. So when President Biden addresses the nation,
you're not separate from what is within. I don't remember.
He will be essentially laying that down for the history books. And you're already hearing praise from Democrats who are touting President Biden, and what he's doing is the ultimate act of selflessness. You're hearing that from members of his family. You're hearing that from key allies. I expect the president may...
Gotta let the old man down easy.
And then, of course, what does he do to essentially pass the ball or pass the baton to his vice president, to Kamala Harris? Does she appear alongside him? Does he give her that full-throated endorsement?
It has been a week and a day.
Of course, the important...
There was an assassination attempt on one of the candidates. Another candidate steps down.
Or wherever this may end up happening. So I think there's going to be so many people watching that, watching to see his tone.
Hulk Hogan.
Because remember, Lester,
that happened.
He's withdrawing from the ticket. He is not leaving the White House. He will continue, of course, to stay in that position of the presidency until the end of his term. So there is still, for lack of a better phrase here, Lester, there's still business to be done. There's still work to be done. Get down to business. Over the course of the next several months, aside from the political campaign.
It's business.
Thank you very much. I'm joined.
Shut up, Lester.
Historian John.
Oh, I don't know. Let's listen to Meacham.
For President Biden. John, have you spoken to the president
I like Meacham.
or at any point leading up to his decision?
I spoke to him today after the decision. I learned about it with the rest of the world, and I think what we should do, as you have been doing, is realize, as Hallie was just saying, the magnitude of this. Yes, there are the politics, and yes, we're naturally going to be looking at what happens the day after and the day after tomorrow. But what President Biden did was a remarkable act of both patriotism and personal courage. It's very, very rare for anyone in any sphere of life to sacrifice something under whatever circumstances, much less at the highest levels, the pinnacle of temporal power, arguably in the
battle box. We got to go to the battle box.
The White House. And he respected reality. He respected fate, as he likes to say. He's a great respecter of fate. And I think understood, like Lincoln, that public sentiment is everything. With it, you can do anything. Without it, you can't do anything. And so this was a recognition of his duty, I think, to the country.
You said you spoke to him today.
He said duty.
You to give the full details of a private conversation.
You know what you should do after you take a duty, right?
What his headspace was like. You know, was he as combative and defiant as he'd been in the days leading up to this?
You're right. I don't want.
Oh, I'm certain Trump is throwing a tantrum.
I think the letter captures where he is. Remember, President Biden, I think I've always thought this, is rather like an upside-down iceberg. You see most of it.
Meacham's going to explain the Biden iceberg to us.
Sometimes it's perhaps, there's always, for all of us, there's some part we don't see. But he has been doing this a very long time. And he looked at reality. He made his decision. And I think it's an exemplar. It's an example for all of us, really. I don't mean to be sentimental. I don't mean to be mindlessly congratulatory about it. But as a historical matter, very, very few people do this. And in an era where so many of us privilege power over principle, where a lot of us would rather take than give, I think it's a moment for the country to...
Publix. They got Publix in Florida. Sky comment
has given us a lesson that our own wishes, our own immediate desires, should not always be controlling.
He had apparently indicated to others that he didn't think that him coming off the ticket would be the magic bullet that many thought. He really thought he could
apparently win. It is.
There's a part of him that still thinks he could win.
Yes.
I don't know. I will say that my friends in Tennessee, I think it was Estes Kefauver, once.
I disagree. I think it was like a 50-50.
Fluid.
That was the odds that like Nate Silver was giving him.
Imagine that there are not.
I think it was actually 55-45 or something like that.
In his psychology. Of course, he's been doing this for 50 years, more. And so political creatures are political creatures. That's what's so amazing about the decision he made, is he's a politician who made a principled decision. And I'd love to say that politicians always do that, but as it's been said of John F. Kennedy's book, Profiles in Courage, that there's a reason it's short and one volume. You know, it's not a ton of examples out there.
You may have heard last Monday, I guess it was, that I sat down with the president for an interview, and one of the questions I asked him, who does he rely on, for, counsel during crises like this, and he says he relies on himself. Did that surprise you at all? You know him, obviously, in a way that I don't.
Yeah, that was a really interesting moment in your interview. Not really, in terms of surprise. If you think about it, doing this a long time, counted out again and again and again. Remember, Joe Biden's life is one of remarkable victory.
It's a hell of a story.
A senator he has to wait for his birthday to get sworn in, all of that. And then tragedy strikes. His life unfolds with the expectation that he'll be a very young president. And the 1988 campaign implodes. He goes back to the Senate. He barrels down. He almost resigned, by the way, the Senate before he took the job. He was going to go back to Wilmington, raise Hunter and Beau after the death of his wife and daughter. His sister Valerie was very much involved, and that was going to be the story. He wasn't going to go, and was encouraged to do so, not least by the incumbent senators at the time. And he likes to say it probably saved his life. And then he's sort of counted out. He has health issues in that era, and loses in 2008. Becomes vice president.
Runs every time up until 2008, by the way.
In 2016, we thought the story was over, right?
But there was not 96, clearly.
Beau has died. He has decided not to run.
Ran in 2000.
President in 2016. And
2004.
That seemed to be the end of the story. And then Charlottesville happened. And the unfolding, still relevant threat was a compelling reason for him to step into the breach. And that's what he did for American democracy and for his vision of what the country should be. Remarkably successful legislative president.
Actually.
I'm a biographer of George Herbert Walker Bush. I think President Biden's handling of Ukraine and NATO in particular ranks with some of our finest foreign policy moments ever. Remember how you don't get much credit politically. This is what people like me do. You don't get much credit for keeping bad things from happening. That politics doesn't reward that. History has to reward that. And so it's a difficult thing sometimes to translate that kind of success into immediate political benefit.
And John,
and that's just a perennial problem.
Before I let you go,
he was probably the best president we've had in my lifetime.
Before. Will this be
low fucking bar
to go before the cameras? Will that be his toughest?
I can't see how it wouldn't be. I will say this, though, and I think this might be important for all of us to bear in mind. This is not the worst day of Joe Biden's life.
That lot of tragedy.
Long, long shot. He has experienced more tragedy, he has prevailed, he has endured, and he has served. And I think the country should take a moment and reflect on that.
All right, John Meacham, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Let's bring it NBC News.
Yeah, Lester. What a moment in history. Let's go through the timeline of Biden dropping out. From the Wall Street Journal here. Walk you through the event. I can't wait until we have Harris on stage with Trump, and the delineation is so clear. She can put together sentences. And what a low bar that is. But she's actually intelligent. There's substance behind those sentences. Not just rambling about Hannibal Lecter. And I look forward to it. I think she will skewer him in a debate. If it happens, there's the possibility it won't, but I think it will. Here's a timeline of events of Biden dropping out.
In one of the most monumental political implosions in American history, President Biden has dropped out of the 2020
mitochondria
race. The decision came weeks after a disastrous debate performance triggered a wave of panic among fellow Democrats. Then, in the aftermath of an assassination attempt that helped elevate Donald Trump to hero status among his already fervent base, calls among Democrats for Biden to step aside reached a breaking point.
I'm not sure the word unprecedented really does this justice. We've just never seen a political story like this.
Several stark moments during Biden's debate showdown with Trump on June 7th brought his age and mental acuity.
Does Trump make it to the election?
Everything we have to do with...
a little harder to take him off the ballot, though.
If we finally beat Medicare.
A few members of Congress came out pretty early after the debate performance. Then the Biden folks seemed to be trying to manage it. Biden did a bunch of calls with donors. He did some events. He did an interview on ABC.
And if you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do.
The goodest job.
That's what this is about.
The president's struggles continued in the weeks following the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
I did not hear about Manchin. There's no shot of that happening.
Beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president.
After the debate went so badly, he had no margin for error at those events. Democrats and voters who were already worried about him and saw those appearances just did not find them reassuring enough to go forward.
One by one,
he has been unprecedented
with their concerns. The unrest also spread to the party's donors, including calls for Biden to step aside from Netflix founder Reed Hastings and actor George Clooney. The president forcefully pushed back on questions about his viability as a candidate in a closely watched press conference on July 11th.
I'm not in this for my legacy. I'm in this to complete the job I started.
Then, on July 13th, the assassination attempt on Donald Trump galvanized his supporters. An energized GOP unified around the former president at the Republican National Convention the following week.
This still seems like a fever dream.
United Republican Party at a moment when the Democrats were very divided and struggling.
Meanwhile, in Las Vegas,
the president has been at many events, as we all know, and
Biden
he
dies
just
of
tested
COVID.
positive for COVID.
Arriving in Delaware to self-isolate, Biden appeared to struggle to get into a car after disembarking from Air Force One. Democrat leaders, fearing steep losses in down-ballot congressional races, ramped up their efforts to oust Biden from the race. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries pushed for Democratic officials to delay formally naming Biden as the party's nominee, people familiar with the matter told the Wall Street Journal. Representative Adam Schiff became one of the highest-profile Democrats to publicly call on Biden to bow out.
Good afternoon.
I'm not sure there was anything he could do after that debate. People were so shocked and scared, and the bottom just fell out very quickly on the money, and people couldn't unsee it. They saw what happened, and they were just so worried that something like that would happen again and cost them not just the White House, but also Congress.
Concerns about Biden's age and mental acuity are not new. They came up when he ran for president against Trump in 2019 at age 76.
You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. You said they would have to buy in.
Have to buy in. If she qualifies for
Are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago?
Be in for it.
During Biden's years in the White House, his staff largely shielded the president from the media.
Compared to recent presidents, President Biden had done less interviews, he had done less lengthy press conferences, and there have been just less opportunities for the press to question him in a lengthy format.
His age came under fresh scrutiny in February when the special counsel investigating Biden's handling of classified documents released a report in which he's described as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
My memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed.
Less than a month before the June 27th debate, the Wall Street Journal reported, based on dozens of interviews, that the president had shown signs of slipping.
Democrats are looking not just at the presidency, but also whether they can hold the Senate. And when
Slipping is an understatement.
The Republicans are very energized, they're very united, they're very clearly behind their candidate, and they're heading into the fall election season feeling really confident. And
I can't believe you got Melania to come.
Go through a really tough thing. And maybe they come out the other side of that really unified, that they can get folks on board, that they can also be energized. But that's more of an open question right now.
I wasn't expecting that we would see Melania or Ivanka ever again. But, that happened. He was the assassination attempt, probably. He was able to leverage that in order to get them to show up for his big event. Get reactions from people in the street about Biden dropping out of the race.
Let's go to our Tom Fitzgerald outside the White House tonight, where folks are expected to gather later this evening to give their thanks to President Biden. But Fitz, you've been on the phone with Democratic members of Congress already this evening. What are you hearing from them?
Well, by and large, there already seems to be a coalescing of Democrats behind the Vice President, Kamala Harris. Now, President Biden is not here at the White House, as you know.
I would think.
Sequestered at his beach house. And
I would assume she was very sad.
The Vice President learned of this news shortly before the president sent out that letter announcing his decision to leave the race today. Already, Democrats are telling Fox 5 on the Hill that while they are not surprised by this decision, they were surprised by the timing, coming on a Sunday, coming in the form of the letter, and also coming without an address directly from the president today. In his letter, the president said he would be speaking to the nation later on this week. Already here at the White House, many people who were visiting here either just learned this news from the news media itself or came down here with the specific intention to be at the White House on this most historic days in the nation's history, some 50 years plus since we have had a sitting vice president decide not to run for re-election.
Sitting president.
This one was Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1968. By and large, folks told Fox 5 today that they were thankful for the fact that they say President Biden made this decision, but there was certain unease amongst folks about what the president's condition is right now and whether or not he should continue to serve in this office from this point forward. Here's a look at what some of the folks had to say.
Oh, my goodness. It's okay. He can go. He needs a break.
Exactly.
He could use a break. I don't blame him.
All I can do is say, may the best person win. May the best person win.
I think it was the right call.
Well, it's clearly not Trump.
Not particularly. I think the writing was on the wall. But, yeah, I think he's a great president, and I think Kamala Harris would be a great, number 47? Is that next? Yeah.
It is big news. It's a surprise, but all we can do is just pray. That's it.
What are you praying for?
Praying that our country is in good hands.
Of course, we were told that the president, for now, is saying in his letter that he will remain in office and focus his efforts over the next 4 months that are remaining in his term. However, there are big questions at this moment within the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris is not officially the Democratic nominee at this point. The Democratic convention is set to start in Chicago in just a couple of weeks. Already, there are also big questions about whether the Biden-Harris war chest would be easily transferable. And if it is, would Republicans go state by state in the courts challenging the transfer of those massive amounts of funds? There's a lot left to find out here, and we're only at the very beginning. Fox 5 Live at the White House tonight. We'll send it back into you.
Fitz, I know that you were talking to those members of Congress, and we have seen various endorsements coming down. Are you getting the sense right now the local delegations are not showing their cards at this point?
ASD, what's up?
Privately, they are, Jim. We have not heard from one.
Not my favorite presidential candidate.
To be throwing their support behind the vice president. But, you know, the timing of this did create a bit of a split in some of the delegations. For example, just this morning on Fox 5's On the Hill,
I'm very familiar with my favorite presidential candidate dropping out each election cycle.
For Joe Biden staying in this race. Now, that comes on the heels of his fellow Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin just days ago saying very publicly the president should get out. It's expected now, with this decision finally made, that all sides of the Democratic spectrum will start to come together. Where they land,
I said that earlier. Biden should pack the court.
The president at this point seems
Biden should take bold action
on what
in his lame duck session.
It is spinning around right now.
From On the Hill to outside the White House, Tom Fitzgerald, thank you.
Tom Fitzgerald. We will apparently hear from the DNC at some point in time. I don't know if that means tonight or in the days to come.
Leaders are endorsing Harris as well. Others are stopping short of backing her. Some Democrats are calling for an open nomination process. DNC Chairman Jamie Harrison says the party will take a transparent and orderly process to choose the next Democratic nominee. Harrison said that he was emotional when he heard Biden was dropping out of the race.
I am emotional about the president's decision because this president, Joe Biden, has been a transformational president. He's been a great leader. He's a good man.
Harrison offered no specifics, but said Americans will hear more from the DNC soon.
I had to flip over and look and to remember who he was myself. He was the Native American activist. There was like some cops apparently went onto a reservation where they had no jurisdiction, and they got into a shootout, and one was killed. They charged Leonard Peltier with murder. Every August for the past 6 years, members of Leonard Peltier's family have held a reunion. This year, they hope he might be able to finally join them. But on July 2nd, their hopes were shattered when the imprisoned Native American activist was once again denied parole after 47 years behind bars. Peltier, 79, is serving 2 consecutive life sentences for his role in a 1975 shootout on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota that resulted in the deaths of 2 federal agents. To this day, he maintains his innocence. His freedom has been a cause célèbre among civil rights and indigenous activists or advocates who accuse law enforcement of suppressing evidence and coercing individuals in order to secure a conviction on first-degree murder charges. Some of his supporters even consider him the longest-serving political prisoner in the United States. But Peltier's relatives say his lengthy incarceration has exacted its own punishment on the family, which has struggled to scrape together funds and fend off blowback from the high-profile case. Chauncey Peltier, his oldest son, remembers Peltier advising him to take his distance from the decades-long legal fight and live his life. "I tried that," Chauncey said, "but being Leonard's son, it's like a cloud over you." It's not surprising that oil and gas were indeed the bad guys in that case. But they have been advocating for Biden to pardon him. Biden yet to do it. Like with all presidential administrations, we will indeed see pardons as he leaves office. What pardons he issues, hard to say. One I would guess he issues would be towards his son, Hunter Biden, who was convicted on federal charges just weeks ago. Let's get Hunter Biden's reaction to his father, Joe, leaving the race.
And now with Phil Lipoff, he's also in New York. And so, Phil, we're starting to hear more and more support for President Biden's decisions to step aside, but we're also hearing, a lot of gratitude sent his way for his of service to this country, none more than his family. It sounds like while Hunter Biden is under tremendous legal pressure and scrutiny in this moment, he is now speaking out about his father's decision.
Yeah, recently convicted of 3 felony gun charges. He's had his problems well documented. But you're right, Kanan, when you talk about the word family, it's one of the words people would use to describe Joe Biden. Family means a lot to him, of course. Right after he was elected to the Senate in 1972, his wife and daughter were killed in a car crash. That's been well documented as well. He speaks to people who have lost loved ones, whether it's in battle or wherever, where he talks a lot about empathy. And his son, Hunter, with all those problems that you mentioned and we talked about, is his son and loves his father. And there's so much reaction on social media, but this was worth reading to our viewers. Hunter Biden says, "For my entire life, I've looked at my dad in awe. How could he suffer so much heartache and yet give so much of whatever remained of his heart to others?" I'll skip down toward the end. He talks about his unconditional love and says, "I'm so lucky every night I get to tell him that I love him and to thank him. I ask all Americans to tonight in doing the same. Thank you, Mr. President. I love you, Dad." And I think that echoes a lot of what we've seen, Kana, in the lead up to and the rumblings that we've heard in the Democratic Party and then the all-out asking for Joe Biden to step aside. Many leaders of the party wouldn't just come out and say it. They would come out and respectfully say it's Joe Biden's decision. I think a lot of people respect this man, and we've heard the word love from some politicians, too. I love Joe Biden. I would never, say he has to step aside. It's his decision. And now we're seeing it from his family as well. Real respect and love.
Bug them. Don't give a shit about their love. Some Republicans not being loving towards Biden at all. Some Republicans are calling for various legal challenges.
However, do not think that Joe Biden is going far enough. They are demanding that he resign the presidency as well. In a post on social, Donald Trump wrote that Biden, quote, was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve. House Speaker Mike Johnson echoed that and called on Biden to resign immediately. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is also accusing Democrats of contradicting the will of voters who chose Biden as their nominee. The 82-year-old, who is a longtime friend of Biden, has not joined GOP calls for Biden to resign before his term ends.
CBS News reporting on the latest as they know it about what led to the decision for him to step aside from the campaign.
White House correspondent Weijia Jiang, because she is at the vice president's residence. And Weijia has some new reporting on what happened this weekend that led up to the president's decision.
Bug off, turtle bitch.
Nora, that's right. I think first we should remember there were 3 things that President Biden said might be able to change his mind when he was being pressed about whether he would even consider leaving the race. Number 1 was the Lord Almighty. Number 2 was some sort of medical condition that sidelined him. And number 3 was if his team showed him data that showed that there was no way he could win. And that's why that's so important, Nora, because we know that he was surrounded.
We do have some crime stories coming up.
Recovering from COVID with his very top, most trusted advisors, including Mike Donnellan, who is known as the data guy, the guy who can really interpret what the figures mean for the president. So we know that last night on Saturday, he was surrounded by this team, and they were continuing to work through a potential path forward. But the president, we are told from people familiar with his schedule and these conversations, began to come to this ultimate decision yesterday evening alongside his team. And then today, he made separate calls to the people who needed to know the most, including Vice President Harris, his Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, the campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, all separately to talk with them about his decision before releasing his letter at 1:46 p.m. today. And then shortly after that, because, in that letter, he was writing in his capacity as president. He said he was appreciative of Vice President Harris for being an extraordinary partner, but there were questions about why he did not formally endorse her. Well, then, half an hour later, from his campaign account, he did release a tweet, a statement endorsing her, asking America to fully get behind her. And then in the mid-afternoon, we know that there was a senior staff call, and that, as we've been reporting, that Jeff Zients held a call also with the cabinet and members of the cabinet to just bring them up to speed with what's going on. And this afternoon, the president actually spent the afternoon making phone calls and talking to people who he wanted to expand on his decision with. And, as you can imagine, this is a very difficult time for the president. And at one point, it seemed like he was so dug in that he wasn't going to reconsider. But of course, it became
he had no other option.
Came to this decision that affects so many. But here at the vice president's residence, we have not seen a glimpse of her yet, and we are told we should not expect to today. But we have seen a lot of excited supporters leaving signs, including some little ones here who are very thrilled about what is unfolding.
I can't imagine what it's like to be.
Well, thank you, Weijia Jiang, and anyone who has covered
Kamala Harris in this moment. Once again, like it's one thing to mount a campaign for the presidency. She's done it before. She did it in 2020. She was vice president. She knew like this moment could come. But to have it happen, to have this thrust on you 3.5 months before the election. What a moment. I can't imagine how she's feeling right now. I'd be freaking the fuck out. I'm sure there's jubilation, but I'm sure like that's a fucking weight on your shoulders. So I do not envy the position that Kamala Harris is in tonight. Of course, now she will be stepping into the race, also facing off against Sky Comet's third cousin, a man by the name of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This was just a couple hours ago. Oh God, if she chose John Fetterman, Krell, that's not out of the realm of possibilities. We all wanted a bland white man from Pennsylvania.
There we go.
I didn't even think about that until you brought it up. It is possible. There you see Cheryl Hines. Plays Cheryl David on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Married to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Stephanie, ready? Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I want to begin by commending President Biden for a career in public service, for a long, long career in representing and serving our country, and for his handling of the many difficulties and challenges, personal challenges and tragedies that he suffered during his life with so much admirable conduct and the empathy that he derived from those experiences, that he was always proficient at showing to the rest of us.
I can't believe he did a radio show.
To add that, a year ago, a little over a year ago, when I entered this race, I predicted that President Biden suffered from a degenerative condition that was not going to improve and that it would make it impossible for him to govern effectively.
There's the guy with the brain worms.
Of the DNC to that obvious condition was to hide it from the American public and to use their power over the Democratic Party nomination process to make sure that nobody could compete with President Biden in a way that would expose his deficiencies. And as a result, we are where we are today which is in a period of crisis. And we have two crises, and they both derive from the same condition. And that condition is the emergence of the domination of corporate power over American democracy that accelerated.
Well, he's not wrong there.
Beginning in 2010 with the Citizens United case that unleashed a tsunami of corporate money into the American political process. And both parties are now captured by that corporate money. And they've lost any kind of authentic connection to the American
people. He was a fantastic corporate lawyer.
The Republican of democracy.
He was an environmental and corporate lawyer.
President Biden promised the last time around that he was going to drain the swamp. But instead he
did great work.
A pharmaceutical lobbyist and CEO to run HHS, Verizon lobbyist to run the FCC, a Goldman Sachs CEO to run the Treasury Department, an oil lobbyist to run the Interior Department.
Amen, brother.
Lobbyist to run the Environmental Protection Agency, and so on.
Yeah, why would Trump do all those things?
Today, President Trump has announced that in his new administration, should he win this election, that Jamie Dimon will be his choice as Commerce Secretary, and that Larry Fink, the director of BlackRock, will run the Treasury Department. This is the swamp. These are swamp creatures. And his pick as vice president is a salute to the CIA.
Yes, she's not fucked in the head. That's all. Like, it's such a low bar, but it's refreshing.
The train is going to continue.
Been too long.
And President Trump has a connection to the American people, a populist connection, but in many ways it's the same fraudulent connection that we saw with the DNC over the past year, concealing the real purpose of.
If you are watching on Twitch and you are not subbed, I'm going to go ahead and get the commercials out of the way. We'll go ahead and watch another 3 minutes raspy voice over here when we come back from the other side of the break. We're going to do crime stories, so be sure to stick around. Get these commercials out of the way, go get you something to drink, take a bathroom break. We'll see you on the other side.
President that represents corporate interests rather than the interests of the American public.
Smooth.
We've seen two presidents who aren't really addressing any of the issues that are critical to our country. We have, if you look at President Biden and President Trump, you can look at them and say these are very different people. Their dispositions are different. Their personalities are different. Their expressed ideologies are very, very different. Their approach to politics could not be more distinct.
That suit is probably really expensive, but it's ugly.
Over which they differ over the landscapes in which they're staging this election.
The suit itself is fine, but it's plain.
Window of guns.
The shirt and the tie are ugly as shit.
Of trans rights, etc. And the big existential issues that are actually facing our country are never addressed.
How you gonna be a rich motherfucker and not look fly?
Is the national debt, which is now $34 trillion. The service on that debt alone is now greater than our military budget. Within 5 years, 50 cents out of every dollar that we collect.
Yeah, I haven't worn one in years.
To servicing
I looked good in one when I did.
In 10 years, 100%. This is not sustainable. President Biden, President Trump offer no solutions. President Biden, on his webpage, has no policy issues addressing this or any other policy. He has a picture of himself and saying that we're going to finish the job. But he doesn't tell what job he's going to finish. If it's the job of running up the deficit till it's completely unsustainable, that's something the American people should know about. President Biden can't talk about it, and President Trump can't talk about it.
Is he changing his tune to go back left because he got caught on that phone call? For those who didn't see it, he got caught on a phone call with Trump right after the assassination attempt, and was like basically talking like it was he and Trump running together. Trump was trying to get him to go ahead and drop out, but and endorse him. But I don't think that's good for Trump. I think a Kennedy on the ticket in Wisconsin and Michigan probably helps Trump there. There's other places that it probably hurts Trump, but I guess he probably has polling that says that Kennedy hurts him in a couple of states if he's trying to get him to drop out. So maybe it's a good thing he keeps running. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it.
Because they're the ones chiefly responsible for running up that debt. President Trump came in.
Welcome back to everybody who was on commercial break.
Presidency is a business.
Glad to have you back.
He was going to balance the federal budget.
You did not miss anything.
And instead, he ran up an $8 trillion debt, more than all the presidents combined since George Washington. And President Biden is now on track to beat that number. So neither of them are even going to talk about this most existential issue. Another existential issue is our addiction to foreign wars. Both men have said that this war, and both men are feeding the war machine. The Ukraine war is a war that should have never been fought. It should have been settled. President Putin has offered twice to settle that war.
Has he?
On terms that were enormous.
Fucking Putin's been getting his ass kicked here lately. Fucking, they took back Crimea.
Beneficial to the Ukrainian people and to the American people and to our security.
Yeah, what is that tie?
And yet, President Putin initialed an agreement. President Zelensky initialed that same agreement in April of 2022.
Imagine what it costs, too. It's probably thousands of dollars.
To force Zelensky to tear up that agreement. And since then, it's probable that over 500,000 Ukrainian kids have died unnecessarily in a war that is enriching BlackRock because they own all of the military contractors that are supplying that war. And BlackRock not only has the contract to destroy Ukraine, but it also now has the contract which President Biden gave them to rebuild Ukraine.
No, do it, Rush.
These presidents is going to deal with the chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president,
drop your album in the Discord. I'd love to hear it.
Today, 60% do. Diabetes alone, when I was a kid, the typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his career, or 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walk through his office door is diabetic.
Give us that shit.
And nobody's talking about why this is happening. The cost of dealing with mitochondrial disorders in our children, dysfunction, which is diabetes, is now greater than our military budget. The biggest cost to our nation is the cost of treating chronic disease, $4.3 trillion.
Yes, we need health care.
Annually. It's 5 times.
I think he is for health care reform, but I don't think he's for Medicare for all.
Why did autism go from 1 in 10,000 in my generation in 70 years?
Oh, there we go. There we go. Brother, autism has gone undiagnosed. I say this as someone who, oh my God, my grandfather was autistic as fuck. Wore the same exact outfit every goddamn day for 90 years of his fucking life. Same exact socks, ate lunch at the same exact time, had the same fucking 2 ham goddamn sandwiches with American cheese and mayonnaise and some sort of fucking like Hostess or Little Debbie cake on the side every goddamn day at noon. On the money. It could be 11:30 if we were watching Price is Right. That motherfucker, he was a used appliance repairman. He is lucky that he did not get lobotomized, locked the fuck up, or some other horrible treatment because he had a skill that was highly exploitable by capitalism. Otherwise, I hate to imagine what his life would have been like. And he met my grandmother who basically took care of him. But he built her a house. My mom, I don't even know if she knows. And it's just really recently dawned on me. Because, like her best friend had to explain a couple of my movies to her. And I'm like, what? How? Because, like, I don't think she understands metaphors and double entendres and shit like that. And it's hereditary. So my grandfather was autistic as fuck, so it seems like my mom was somewhere on the spectrum. Yeah, like, it wasn't diagnosed. It's gone undiagnosed, and now we recognize the symptoms. And we can actually provide people the treatment and the help that they need, if they need help. It's not necessarily something that needs to be cured. Autistic people can be special as fuck, just like anyone else. Everyone's special. Let me go back. I'll peruse the front page of the news here. Let's see if we've got any updates. Do you want a retrospective on Biden's career? I think I'm Biden'd out for tonight. Oh, God. So we heard everybody else in the Democratic Party has joined together. We have unity. Tex, good evening. We have unity in the Democratic Party, except for one, Mr. Manchin.
Robert, a lot of the discussion is about Joe Biden and his legacy, protecting that legacy. That's in part, I think, why he chose not to seek re-election. He is throwing his weight behind his vice president, Kamala Harris. But is it clear tonight that she has the nomination? Who else may jump in?
We're looking at a Democratic Party that's convulsing tonight. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who just registered as an independent, a longtime centrist Democrat. CBS News has now learned he is considering re-registering as a member of the Democratic Party to consider standing for the Democratic presidential nomination, in effect challenging Vice President Harris for that nomination. He has not made a final decision based on our conversations with people close to him, but he is considering it tonight.
Let him. He'll fall on his face.
Party officials. His consideration underscores how some Democrats are nervous about Vice President Harris's ability to beat former President Donald Trump, who I just spoke with about an hour or two ago. He told CBS News that he's prepared to have a political onslaught against Vice President Harris or whomever emerges as the nominee. I asked him, are you ready to debate Vice President Harris? He says, not at all, because I'm not even sure I'm going to be running against her. Let's see what happens.
And Nora, just to give you a sense of how fast-moving this is, Senator Joe Manchin was on Face the Nation at 10:30 this morning and said, it's time for a new generation, forget about me. Between 10 this morning and right now, there is a reconsideration.
That's like a month ago in politics, Margaret.
Wow.
So much has changed.
That piece of
One of
shit.
Senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang, because she is outside the vice president's residence. And Weijia, what do we know about what the vice president is doing at this hour?
We heard from Weijia outside of Harris's house earlier. You want to see what the Fox News reaction is? Go to Brett Baer.
Anchorage Special Report. Brett Baer has got a special edition of his program tonight with Martha between 5 and 7 o'clock. I want to read a couple of things to you. First of all, color from our Brooke Singman, Fox Digital reporter, who says a source very familiar tells Fox Digital that as of last night, the message from President Biden and those around him was, quote, all systems go and campaign full speed ahead.
Well, yeah.
Then at around 1:45 p.m., he notified senior team members that he had changed his mind. Let's get to what might have changed.
All systems go until they're not.
This statement from Barack and Michelle Obama, which does not endorse Kamala Harris. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton have come out to endorse her. President Biden endorsed her. But here's what the Obamas say. We will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead, but I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. Ouch.
Yeah. This is going to be fascinating. I think that what we see over the next couple of days as far as Democrats and whether they coalesce around Kamala Harris is going to be really telling for the party.
Fuck Obama, not his party. He don't get to make decisions.
Congressional Black Caucus, others. We just saw Senator Tammy Baldwin in a tough race in Wisconsin. She endorsed Kamala Harris. But notably, there are some who haven't. Bill and Hillary Clinton have. And you're going to see this yes, no, checking the box, whether there's going to be this mini primary or not. But just step back 30,000 feet for a second. The enormity of this action today, the fact that the President of the United States, who just yesterday, all his people were out on TV saying he was 100% in. This is just
creepy girl.
We're coming after him. There was a huge.
Good evening.
Jonathan Martin and others have reported that Team Biden in Delaware were making calls to delegates to make sure that they were on the line with Biden. They were still sticking with Biden.
That they were still riding with Biden.
And then this turn. It has been 56 years since the President of the United States chose not to run for re-election when Lyndon Baines Johnson stepped down.
I wish he had made this decision
not run for
November of last year.
Joe Biden is doing the same thing. And as mentioned before, I think you're going to see
in between Thanksgiving and Christmas would have been the perfect time to announce it.
To serve the final 5 months.
Hey folks,
you're seeing Republicans.
It's been a fun ride. I'm not running for re-election. Let me save you some heartache.
Look, what looks like is real is that Chicago is going to be something that we haven't seen probably since 1968.
It's gonna be insane.
But it's starting out that way.
They said that about 1968 as well. They had to put grease on the statue of General Grant so that people stopped climbing up it. I mean, Chicago 1968 was a disaster. Very dynamic inside the convention hall. I remember an old colleague of mine, Dan Rather, getting hauled away and famously saying, "Don't put your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me unless you're going to arrest me." So it got very dynamic in there. But the historic parallels are really quite something here. You've got, first of all, the city. You've also got the fact that the Democratic nominee has dropped out. It's going to be some sort of open convention. And then you've got all of these protesters that are planning on turning out at the Democratic convention. Protesters who never showed up at the RNC, but they're targeting the DNC. I mean, they
did indeed protest the RNC.
Really up in
that dude is lying.
Who they choose. You know, if it is Kamala Harris, remember the other thing about the vice president is that they're going to come after Kamala Harris saying she knew all along what the real situation.
They probably didn't let her see Joe
behind the scenes. How
they really did have Joe locked up.
Was getting, and that'll be part of the attack against the vice president. I think that who if she becomes the nominee, chooses as a running mate. And how that process goes will also affect the protests. But you're right. The Gaza-Israel protests are real. It's not ending. And this comes on a week when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaks to Congress. He'll be here in Washington, D.C. It's a confluence
of gives a shit
things all at once. By the way, President Biden was scheduled to give an address at the LBJ Library in Austin, Texas, this week. It was supposed to mark the civil rights enaction of the civil rights law and the anniversary of that. Pretty ironic that LBJ stepping down from this nomination and all that's happened in the past few hours.
So Chad Pergram made the point a moment ago that the Republicans may launch an investigation into who knew about President Biden's condition and was it kept from the American people. So there's that, and then there's also the idea that if Joe Biden is not fit to run for re-election, can he continue as president?
I think that you're going to hear more and more of that from Republicans particularly. I think that in a hot area of trouble zones around the world.
Well, yeah, you're going to hear it from Republicans.
Major point.
Let me give you one just came out in the last little bit. high-profile Republican, the vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump.
Fox News alert now that Joe Biden's dropping out of the race. There's a growing call for him to leave the White House right now. In our exclusive interview with Trump and Vance, they laid it out. Invoke the 25th Amendment. Is it a coup against Joe Biden?
It's sort of, yeah.
I think it is. I mean, look, there's a constitutional process, the 25th Amendment. If Joe Biden can't run for president, he can't serve as president. And if they want to take him down because he's mentally incapable of serving, invoke the 25th Amendment. You don't get to sort of do this in the most politically beneficial way for Democrats. If it's an actual problem, they should take care of it in the appropriate way.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
Shut up, Sean Hannity. No, let the old man finish his fucking term. In the last few minutes, high-profile Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has come out and endorsed Harris.
A significant one in the last few minutes, Lester Holt, and that is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. She, of course, a leading progressive figure, someone who was among the group of congressional Democrats that was insistent that Joe Biden stay in the race. And one of the things that we've been closely tracking is whether or not progressive Democrats would get behind Kamala Harris's campaign. And she has now given Kamala Harris her full-throated endorsement, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she joins a growing list of Democrats that are rallying around Kamala Harris as the nominee of the Democratic Party. They include Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, someone who might be considered as a candidate himself. And Gavin Newsom may also be considered as Kamala Harris's running mate if it gets to that point. We also saw endorsements from Bill and Hillary Clinton, Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina, who's a powerful...
I mean, that's not exactly the best list.
Caucus. Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, has also endorsed Josh Shapiro, who is the governor of Pennsylvania, considered a rising star in the Democratic Party, also someone that we should watch as a potential running mate for Kamala Harris if she's able to win the nomination. You also saw Congressman Adam Schiff of California, who's likely to become the next senator from California and is also closely aligned with Nancy Pelosi as well. So, Lester, while we've seen a lot of Democrats come forward and express support for Kamala Harris, say that she should be the nominee, there are still many that believe that this should be an open contest, that there should be the opportunity for other Democrats to throw their hat in the ring as well, some describing it as it not wanting to be a coronation. So we're going to continue to have to watch this process play itself out as we head into the convention coming up next month. Lester.
Thanks for...
Shut up, Lester. Apparently, Stephen Miller is having a meltdown on Fox News tonight over the events transpiring earlier today. Stephen Miller on with Laura Ingraham.
They held a primary. People, they had ballots. They filled out circles. They went to the voting booths. They spent money on advertisements. And as President Trump said, the Republican Party spent tens of millions of dollars running against Joe Biden. Now they just woke up one morning and said, never mind, we're canceling the entire primary. We're getting rid of our candidate, and we're pretending the election has never even happened, and we're going to let donors handpick a new nominee. They held a primary. People.
So I guess he's not very happy with what's going on. Here is we're getting footage of Harris, who is celebrating currently. That's a fucking sick beat. It will be nice that one of the presidential candidates will know how to use TikTok. And hey, she almost 60. She out here doing it. How is it crazy bananas? She's just dancing with some kids. How she's celebrating right now with First Gentleman Doug Inhofe. We need a mamala. This nation needs a mamala. Oh. You want to do some crime stories? Let's get some crime stories. You want a police chase first or at the end? We'll do the actual crime stories. We'll save police chase for the end here. Cop in Chicago. Oh, I should go ahead and hit the Alice. Do you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Oh, look, I'm still getting my Kamala-isms. Kamala-isms. Get my Kamala-isms down. Content warning. We're getting ready to do some crime stories. If I really don't have much fuckery, but like 20 minutes from now, the crime stories are probably not going to be as graphic. And then you'll get a police chase, and I think I have a couple of stupid stories. I think I got a kid getting stuck in the sand. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see where the mood takes us. In Illinois, a deputy allegedly shot a woman in the face.
Outraged over the killing of a black woman in Sangamon County.
Sonia Massey was shot on July 6th by a sheriff's deputy who responded to her 911 call. Well, that deputy is now facing criminal charges.
Our Tia Ewing is in studio with a developing story. Tia.
Well, Scott and Sylvia, this story is making national headlines going beyond this state. This shooting is leading to several protests in southern Illinois. Court documents released today detailed the incidents that happened on July 6th, saying that the deputy shot 36-year-old Sonia Massey, who you see here, in her face during a tense moment over a pot of water in her home. The deputy has been identified as Sean Grayson. Prosecutors say after he shot Massey, he discouraged another deputy from getting a medical kit from their vehicle.
What?
In a statement released this week, the Sangamon County State's attorney says a review of body camera video doesn't support the use of deadly force. Governor J.B. Pritzker says he is grateful that charges have now been filed.
We've seen too much of this, where an innocent person, unarmed, who actually called for assistance, was the target and the victim of a shooting by a police officer. And this is not, it does not reflect on all police officers.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Or sheriff's deputy committed a crime.
Massey's family has viewed the body camera footage of this shooting and have hired civil rights attorney Ben Crump. Massey's funeral is scheduled to happen tomorrow. Scott?
What the fuck? This one is heartbreaking. This father was apparently playing PlayStation while his kid died in a hot car.
On the Marana father charged with second-degree murder after his 2-year-old daughter died in a hot car. A criminal complaint against Christopher Schultes shows the temperature was 109 at the time of the 911 call, and the car was parked in direct sunlight. Police say they interviewed the man's other 2 children, ages 9 and 5. Both said he left them alone in the vehicle regularly and got distracted. Investigators also say his wife texted him while the 2-year-old was being transported to the hospital saying, quote, "I told you to stop leaving them in the car." Schultes has been released from jail to pretrial services. In Pinal County.
Fuck. I'm a PlayStation fan. That's why I didn't have any goddamn kids. This was the moment. This happened last week. We didn't get to cover it because we were doing the RNC. This is the moment that Patrick McDowell found out that he would be receiving the death penalty for killing a cop. Me.
To all 10 charges in the indictment, Patrick McDowell is hereby adjudicated guilty of the charge in count 1, first-degree premeditated murder for the death of Deputy Joshua Moyers. Adjudicated guilty of the charge count 2 of injuring a police dog. And adjudicated guilty.
Oh, you fucking don't injure a dog.
Of aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer. Number 2, as to the sentence for count 1, you, Patrick McDowell, shall remain in the custody of Nassau County Sheriff, and by him delivered into the custody of the Florida Department of Corrections at the Florida State Prison, where you shall be confined on death row until a date certain selected by the governor of the state of Florida, and on that date you shall be executed in a manner provided by Florida law. For count 2, you shall be sentenced to 15 years in Florida State Prison. For counts 3 through 10, you shall be sentenced to 15 years in Florida prison on each count.
Didn't seem like he was phased.
Shall run consecutive to each other, but concurrent with the capital sentence imposed by this court in count 1. You are hereby notified that this sentence is subject to automatic review by the Supreme Court of Florida, and notice of appeal must be filed with the clerk of court for Nassau County within 30 days from the date of filing the final judgment and sentence in this case. Counsel will be appointed by separate order to represent you for that purpose. Further, pursuant to Section 922, 105 Florida statutes, you have 30 days from the date of the issuance of a mandate pursuant to a decision of the Florida Supreme Court affirming the sentence of death to elect death by electrocution or by other procedures required by law. This sentencing order is being contemporaneously filed with the clerk of the court, and copies will be distributed to counsel for both the state and the defense. Restitution will be ordered as agreed to by the parties. All right, Madam Clerk, here are copies and the original on the top. Thank you.
What method would everybody choose? If you were on death row, you get to choose your method. What would everybody pick? Oh, they all sound horrible. Firing squad? I'm going to start a new segment on this show called What the Fuck is Going On in Fort Worth? Because shit keeps happening in Fort Worth. It's hot. It's hot. Death by Snoo. Snoo. That's the plug me in. Free fall. That would be fun. Here's the thing about lethal injection is apparently, like, you know, it tortures people. That's why there has been a slowdown in executions in this country. What the fuck is happening in Fort Worth?
Fort Worth police released dashcam video and footage of a dangerous chase involving a truck theft suspect who was armed. Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes.
And I'm Steve Eager. It ended with a carjacking and officers firing at the suspect. Going to show you the video released this afternoon by police. You see, the driver of the stolen pickup truck ran into a police car. The chase continued then on for another 20 minutes.
Not high enough for this shit.
In danger, but it was the end of the chase, where police say the danger escalated and officers eventually opened fire. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager live with a video and the message from the police chief. Peyton.
Stephen, in a press conference this afternoon, Fort Worth Police Chief Neil Noakes said
non-smoker coming in while I'm smoking.
People in the community. We know that a flock camera in the Fort Worth city limits notified police of a stolen truck. Officers tried to pull the suspect over, but the suspect refused to stop.
Welcome, friends. Welcome. I am JustinFREAKIN. This is the Troll Patrol Live. We do the most absurd news, politics, and current events.
Ooh, yeah.
Thank you for being a freaking follower, SB. Welcome in. Welcome in. Non-smoker is good people. We were on a panel together. What, like 2 years ago? I need to pack a new bong. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you had a fantastic stream. Welcome in, everybody. We do the news. We find out what that news be doing. We're kind of catching up on things because politics been crazy for the last week, including today. We've talked about Joe Biden ad nauseum. So now this is like our cathartic moment. We do crime stories. We do a lot of local news, crime stories. We're going to do a car chase here in just a little bit. I really like to do police chases. DJ Dub, welcome in. Good evening. You've probably been lurking for a while, though. But welcome in, everybody. We're currently finding out what the fuck is going on in Fort Worth. It's been a recurring segment here on the show. What the fuck is going on in Fort Worth? Because there's been crazy stuff happening virtually every night. We just got body camera footage, dash cam footage released from the cops from a police shootout that happened with a truck thief back on July 11th.
Of a dangerous chase involving a truck theft suspect who was armed. Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes.
And I'm Steve Eager. It ended with a carjacking and officers firing at the suspect. Going to show you the video released this afternoon.
Pack a new bong.
You see, the driver of the stolen pickup truck ran into a police car. The chase continued then on for another 20 minutes. Other drivers put in danger, but it was the end of the chase, where police say the danger escalated and officers eventually opened fire. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager.
Well, show us that video.
Message from the police chief.
That's what we came for, the money shot.
Stephen, in a press conference this afternoon, Fort Worth Police Chief Neil Noakes said that the shooting really rattled people in the community. We know that a flock camera in the Fort Worth city limits notified police of a stolen truck. Officers tried to pull the suspect over, but the suspect refused to stop. Newly released video shows a stolen pickup and a Fort Worth police cruiser colliding at the start of a chase in the northwest part of the city.
It's a nice truck, but I would have gone for a different color.
The maroon GMC Sierra truck led Fort Worth officers on a 20-minute chase last Thursday.
Doubling back to Jacksboro, continuing southbound.
Recklessly running red lights at a high rate of speed and also cutting.
The cops should be chasing him.
Everyone, are y'all able to see inside of that vehicle? It looks like, I don't know if he's holding on to some firearm.
Officers deployed a spike strip, and the truck stalled in a parking lot near Northwest 28th and McKinley Avenue. The suspect gets out with a long gun and carjacks a white SUV.
Oh, shit!
5 Fort Worth officers then opened fire, first on the SUV, then on the suspect as he got out.
What, he got out? And you shot him? He's got his hands up.
Do not let him get towards.
What the hell?
Traffic, shots fired.
In his back.
Point of the police helicopter above, it appears the suspect is holding the rifle to his head after he exits the SUV.
Shots fired. Subject is down. Subject is down.
Police say the suspect was shot at least 7 times and remains in the hospital. Chief Neil Noakes says the suspect provided investigators with a possible fake name, so his name and age are still unknown.
The gentleman, when we first spoke to him, said his name was Joaquin.
Wait, spoke to him?
We've actually been doing some checking. We've not been able to confirm that.
He's alive?
Have his identity confirmed, but once we do, we'll share that information. It rattled the community too, because this was right in their backyard. And I think about the split-second decisions officers have to make in situations like this, whether to act or not act, whether to shoot or not shoot.
The suspect is facing multiple charges, including aggravated robbery and evading arrest. Chief Noakes says
it's amazing he's alive. Did you guys hear how many bullets they shot? Lucky for us, cops are incompetent and also a really bad shot. He lived. Oh, yeah, Llama, we can go back here. This was a chase.
Speed and also cutting through parking lots.
Everyone, are you all able to see inside that vehicle? It looks like, I don't know if he's holding on to some firearm.
Officers deployed a spike strip, and the truck stalled in a parking lot near Northwest 28th and McKinley Avenue. The suspect gets out with a long gun and carjacks a white SUV. 5 Fort Worth officers then opened fire, first on the SUV, then on the suspect as he got out.
They're just shooting aimlessly into a vehicle. There are civilians. This is a gas station in the middle of the afternoon. And they're just shooting aimlessly. It is, 17? That's 4 o'clock.
Drop the guy! Drop the guy! Drop the gun now! Drop it! Drop it! Drop the guy! Do not let him get towards
And I didn't notice that the pumps had been removed. I thought that vehicle was getting gas, but apparently that is not what it was doing there. That gas station has been converted into something else. It's amazing he's alive. He's facing he needs help.
From the vantage point of the police helicopter above, it appears
clearly something else is going on.
To his head after he exits the SUV.
Shots fired. Subject is down. Subject is down.
Police say the suspect was shot at least 7 times and remains in the hospital. Chief Neil Noakes says the suspect provided investigators with a possible fake name, so his name and age are still unknown.
The gentleman, when we first spoke to him, said his name was Joaquin Guzman. We've actually been doing some checking. We've not been able to confirm that, so we don't have his identity confirmed, but once we do, we'll share that information. It rattled the community too, because this was right in their backyard. And I think about the split-second decisions officers have to make in situations like this, whether to act or not act, whether to...
They shouldn't have acted. You fuckers were incompetent.
The suspect is facing multiple charges, including aggravated robbery and evading arrest. Chief Noakes says at this time he still doesn't know even if this suspect lives in the city of Fort Worth. And Stephen, Heather, it's still under investigation, the details surrounding that initial stolen truck. Back to you guys.
All right, Peyton Yeager, thank you.
So that was tonight's edition of What the Fuck is Going On in Fort Worth. This is one I referenced. We were going to do it the other night. I couldn't find it. I don't remember what night it was. It was one night we were doing breaking news or RNC coverage or something. This happened in the last week or so in New Jersey. Apparently, a bomb plot to blow up the PSE&G substations in New Jersey was foiled by the federales.
An 18-year-old man accused of plotting to blow up PSE&G substations.
Federal agents say they took him into custody after he unknowingly revealed his plan to an undercover law enforcement officer. News 4's Pat Battle has the disturbing details.
Federal authorities say this PSE&G electrical substation off Route 27 in New Brunswick was one of 2 that Andrew Takistov had allegedly targeted, even visiting this site with a man he recruited to help destroy it. Only that man turned out to be an undercover agent.
It was in scout with my kid.
Boy Scouts?
Boy Scout, yeah. And he was pretty good. Yeah. He's
pretty good, all right.
Eagle Scout.
How do you wrap your head around this then?
I don't know. That's a big surprise, yeah.
What could have transpired to take 18-year-old Andrew Takistov from a one-time Eagle Scout to an alleged terrorist? Incomprehensible to Minesh Christian. He lives across the street from the family.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
In this quiet East Brunswick neighborhood. Takistov's father declined to talk to News 4 when we went to the house 2 days after federal agents descended on the home where the 18-year-old allegedly concocted a plan to blow up 2 PSE&G facilities and chatted online with an undercover law enforcement officer about his plans.
It looks more like, aspirational more than operational. But you have to go there. You have to check his home. You have to interview his friends. You have to see his online presence. These are going to be the things that to try to pick up communications and see again who put this idea in his head.
Federal authorities had been monitoring Takistov and his online activity for months. U.S. Attorney for New Jersey Philip Selinger saying in a statement that, quote, his post referenced Adolf Hitler, encouraged violence against black and Jewish communities, praised mass shooters, and causing death and destruction on a large scale.
It is chilling. And also the element here that struck me is that he wanted to attack critical infrastructure. And typically what these recruits who are new to this type of an effort, they want to go shoot somebody. They want to plant a bomb, that type of thing. To attack critical infrastructure is usually more of a institutional perspective.
Takistov was arrested at Newark Liberty International Airport, reportedly on his way to Paris, then on to Ukraine, and eventually to Russia, where federal agents say he planned to hook up with a Nazi military group for more.
Just think that, that's kind of a mindset is there. Just crazy.
At such a young age.
Such a very young age, yeah. I mean, I feel for his parents, yeah.
A PSE&G spokesperson says, of course, the utility takes security and protection very seriously and that they were actively engaged with the FBI, adding that the majority of its electrical substations have redundancies built in the event that something like that happens, and that its staff is highly trained and prepared to address any potential impact. In New Brunswick, I'm Pat Battle, News 4 New York.
One of them Azov battalion motherfuckers, eh? A mom in Michigan has been arrested for the death of her son. And you ain't gonna believe this shit. Well, once again, the most absurd news, politics, and current events on the internet.
Boy in Indiana. More than 2.5 months since Dakota Stevens died, his foster mother is now charged with killing him.
New details were revealed, allegedly showing the 10-year-old stopped breathing after his foster mother sat on top of him, and how Ring cameras helped police solve this case. NBC5's Randy Gyllenhaal spoke with a neighbor and Dakota's former foster father, asking if more.
Somebody in the chat mentioned death by snoo snoo. Was this what you had in mind?
Could have been done to prevent this tragedy.
He was always a happy-go-lucky kid. He always wanted to be outside.
10-year-old Dakota Stevens had a smile that defied a difficult upbringing. The Indiana boy spent years in foster care and was killed, prosecutors now say, by his new foster mother.
He did it the best that he could, and unfortunately, he fell victim to the system.
His former foster family has spent weeks pushing for charges, and today Porter County prosecutors charged Jennifer Wilson with reckless homicide. Dakota had just been placed in her Valparaiso home when police say he ran off after a temper tantrum, even asking a neighbor to adopt him because his parents hit him in the face. But But police say Wilson found and brought him back, and he tried to run again, so she laid her entire weight on his body while calling the boy's caseworker. Wilson told police that she laid on the boy's midsection out here in the yard to control him. The 10-year-old weighed just 91 pounds, but Wilson, according to police, weighs 340 pounds.
Goddamn!
Child for 5 minutes until he stopped moving. An autopsy showed asphyxia. He was crushed and deprived of oxygen, and ring camera video shows the boy crying and then silence.
For her to lay on him like that and not, it's like she didn't care, you know?
What a piece of shit.
Mike Bryant and other neighbors were outside that April afternoon.
Felt horrible for that little boy. And just want justice.
A warrant now issued for Wilson's arrest. She was not home today and is not yet in custody.
At the end of the day, he was just a kid just trying to grow up and just voice his own opinions.
She's on the run.
We're always going to let that be known and keep his memory alive.
In Porter County, Randy Gyllenhaal, NBC 5 News.
Very difficult story.
Just heartbreaking. Our thanks to Randy for bringing us that.
340-pound woman sat on a child that was less than 100 pounds. Jesus. Have you ever heard of the bystander effect? Apparently, it is this psychological phenomenon that if you were in a crowded area and someone needs help, you might not be keen to call for help because you'll figure somebody else might do it. I'm assuming that that's what happened here in Las Vegas.
And Denise, the Las Vegas Athletic Club argues that over their 46-year history, they have not had an incident like the one we're going to show you tonight. However, the fact is, had it not been for the health district, we would have never known someone even died. Tonight, we look at the death of a woman in an LVAC pool and ask what happened and how it can be prevented from happening again. We do want to warn you, the video is disturbing in nature. At 8:30 a.m. on February 4th at the North Decatur Las Vegas Athletic Club, 58-year-old Letitia Triplett went to exercise in the gym's pool. Triplett, seen here, entered the pool and began exercising, kicking her legs while gripping the side of the pool wall. It's after 25 minutes of exercise, her legs stop kicking, and we see Triplett gripping the side of the pool, moving towards the stairs. For a few minutes, Triplett attempts to pull herself out of the pool using the handrails. During this point, other members walk by her, going down the stairs.
You don't ask her if she needs help?
For life, no one seeming to notice. Shortly after, Triplett appears to kick herself away from the stairs, where she drowns. For 10 minutes, Triplett appeared motionless in the pool. According to the LVAC, she was floating on her back. During this 10-minute period, other members swimming and even walking right by her. After a sum total of 20 minutes of no one noticing a struggle or lack of movement, it's when this member jumps in. Then more members gathering to pull Triplett out. According to the health district report, it's after a minute that an LVAC employee is seen on camera. Paramedics arriving shortly thereafter.
Oh my God!
Have employees monitoring video feeds like this one to spot members in distress. However, video which showed if an employee was watching this feed was deleted, according to the health.
Of course it was.
District and LVAC presented arguments in court Thursday regarding Triplett's death. Here, Ogana Brown, the attorney representing LVAC.
In 46 years, there has not been a drowning event. This is an anomaly, and this was not a direct drowning event. This was a cardiac arrest.
Whereas Joel Riyad, attorney for the health district, said those in attendance weren't lifeguards or trained to save Triplett.
They can see you, but if they don't know you, if they don't care, if it's not their job to be looking, unfortunately, you might as well be alone.
Now, according to the coroner's report, Triplett did suffer from obesity and hyperintensive cardiovascular disease, but her cause of death was ruled an accidental drowning. Reporting from the studio.
Oh man, somebody who's out of shape is at a gym trying to work out. Go figure, right? I didn't know gyms were just for people who were in shape. Did you guys know that? Telling you, I promise. The most absurd news, politics, current events on the internet. Here's a moment a crane falls in Florida, caught on video.
This wild video showing the moments part of a crane fell several stories. There it goes. Oh, this was during rush hour traffic too. It happened in Florida back in April. You can see the giant piece crushed that car, that driver. Incredibly away with only minor injuries. A construction worker was killed as it came down, though. The incident
anonymously. Fuck, that's insane.
This wild video showing the moments part of a crane fell several stories. There it goes. Oh, this was during rush hour traffic.
Yeah, I moved on quickly from that, but honestly, the dude that walked beside her when she was struggling, what the fuck was your deal, dude? How do you not look over at her and be like, ma'am, can I help you up? Do you need assistance? Do you need me to call somebody? How do you not give her a hand? What in the, like, mind is boggled by that. Dude walked right past her. She is clearly not okay at that moment. He could have saved her life. And hey, I understand being in another world. I live in just a world all the fucking time. I get it. And I could totally see walking, clearly she was in need. I don't know. Because me of all people, I am constantly in my own head. I'm a creative. I've got a million things going on. That one specific guy. Other people, I understand you're in your own world. But that one specific guy, like, he had to see her on the stairs struggling. And I can't get over that. That one guy is the only one that I really have a gripe with. I can understand everybody else. This fucking crane. I promise you, the most absurd news, politics, and current events. This shit's wild. This shit is bananas.
This wild video showing the moments part of a crane fell several stories. There it goes. Oh, this was during rush.
Who pays the insurance for that?
In Florida back in April. You can see the giant piece of metal crush that car, that driver incredibly able to walk away with only minor injuries. A construction worker was killed as it came down, though. The incident is under investigation.
Fuck. Yeah, cardiac arrest. She would have had a chance. She would have had a very good chance. We have when you can get somebody to a doctor, to a hospital, there's a very good chance they can be saved during a heart attack. Was that a Pontiac that got hit?
During the moments part of a crane fell several stories. There it goes. Oh, this was during rush hour.
I think that's a Pontiac.
Happened in Florida back in April. You can see the giant piece of metal crush that car, that driver incredibly able to walk away.
Seriously.
Minor injuries. A construction worker was.
It was an Acura.
It came down, though. The incident is under investigation.
I would be fucked up if that happened to me.
Take a look at this wild video showing the moments part of a crane fell several stories. There it goes. Oh,
how does that part of a crane fall?
In Florida back in April. You can see the giant piece of metal crush that car, that driver incredibly able to.
It's weird because it's like the middle. It's like a middle piece of it. It's absurd. Oh, yeah. What the hell? Gratuitous. Welcome in, my friend. Jesus Christ.
Crane fell several stories. There it goes. Oh, this was during rush.
Is it?
Too. It happened in Florida back in April. You can see the giant piece of metal crush that car, that driver incredibly able to walk away with only minor injuries. A construction worker was killed as it came down, though. The incident is under investigation.
Jesus. Lucky he didn't die. Look at that assassination attempt. A 16-year-old was at the beach in San Diego. And how the fuck does this happen? I don't even know. I find this hilarious. I guess I shouldn't be like laughing about it. I guess it's a really serious thing. A 16-year-old girl has her head stuck in a hole.
Race against the clock. Inside that massive hole is a girl buried up to her chest in the sand. The dramatic rescue is unfolding on Mission Beach in San Diego. 20 firefighters and lifeguards.
Her head was sticking out of the hole.
The 16-year-old.
A female about 6 feet into the sand hole on the beach.
Good Samaritan Richard Meston, a former lifeguard, was there to help.
I saw a life-threatening situation because she was up to her chest level.
Witnesses say the girl was digging in the sand with friends when she fell into the giant hole and couldn't get out.
Like a sinkhole?
High tide was coming in, and soon the hole would be underwater.
Her head level was 6 feet down. That's where her head started, so her body's underneath that.
And she was unable to move.
Unable to move.
Fire Captain Maureen Hodges explains how the teen found herself in such danger.
A group of teenagers, they dug a hole. It was probably somewhere between 8 and 10 feet deep. As her friends tried to get her out of the hole, their body weight on the edges started to collapse the sand, the edges around her.
After 30 excruciatingly long minutes, success. The girl is free and safe. It's reminding many of the beach horror that unfolded earlier this year that claimed the life of a 7-year-old girl.
There is a little girl buried under the sand and they have not gotten to her yet.
Sloan Mattingly was with her brother Maddox when the 5-foot hole they had dug collapsed on top of them. Her 9-year-old brother was pulled out alive. Sloan was suffocated by the sand. Their parents.
Wow!
And it didn't matter that we were literally right there. It was just a hole and there's nothing. And then it just became chaos and horror.
Fortunately, this latest rescue has a happy ending.
Well, I'm not much of a hole digger. I don't go to the beach and dig a hole. I might walk around, get my toes in the sand, wade out into the water. I'm not a deep waters kind of guy either. They got sharks out there. I'm a lay on the beach kind of guy. That seems apropos for me. We've got an epic meltdown that happened at a Spirit Airlines. Don't dig holes recreationally.
Meltdown at the airport.
Leave it to the professionals, kids.
That's a Spirit Airlines gate agent having a, well, spirited freak out at Hollywood Airport.
All right, now, you all want to get on this flight or not? Yes, we do. All right, so everyone's going to shut up, and we're going to say this once, and we're only going to say it again because we're frustrated as hell.
Kevin Ice shot the video before boarding his flight to Las Vegas.
Look at him.
God, it was the most chaotic thing that has ever happened to me at an airport.
An 8-hour delay from a morning flight led to a bottleneck at the gate as passengers from another flight gathered, overwhelming the boarding process.
A second gate agent tried to keep everyone calm, but things quickly escalated.
Please be quiet so I can think of what's going on. I don't even know what aircraft is here because everybody's screaming the numbers. I don't know what I have. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what aircraft's sitting out there. I don't know what's going on. You guys won't give me a minute. Please give me a minute. Please. You will, girl. Take a minute.
Spirit Airlines.
The crowd went on to storm the Capitol.
Agents have been suspended. We apologize
Why?
For this experience, which does not reflect Spirit's high standards for guest service. This passenger says he's not surprised the agents have been suspended.
I hope these people learn their lesson.
Everyone's going to shut up.
I really didn't see him doing anything all that bad.
We're only going to say it again because we're frustrated as hell.
That's definitely not the Spirit.
I wonder if that had something to do with the outage. I forgot that was a thing that was that happened. See if I can find maybe yeah, here we go. Apparently still ongoing as of yesterday. I don't use anything with this CrowdStrike. Apparently it affects certain Microsoft shit.
Healthcare, banking and airlines are slowly coming back online after a digital outage disrupted networks in many countries. The crisis was caused by a faulty software update which affected Microsoft Windows systems. But it could be some time before all the backlogs are cleared. While some airline devices are beginning to return to normal after thousands of flights were cancelled, operators expect some delays and cancellations to persist through the weekend. Many businesses
They were on XP? No way, clinically.
Orders that could take days to resolve. The global chaos has sparked concern over the vulnerability of the world's interconnected technologies and the extent to which a single software glitch could have such widespread impact. And the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre is warning that scammers could attempt to take advantage of the widespread computer problems. Vinnie McInvey has the latest.
A day of worldwide IT chaos thanks to an update meant to protect systems, but which instead paralysed them with this blue screen. Train services and airports were badly affected, with thousands of flights grounded all over the globe, from the UK to Asia and the US. This flight radar data shows US skies emptying out.
Wow!
Delays and cancellations are expected to persist for several days. Here, medicine deliveries to pharmacies were disrupted, and GPs in England had problems accessing patient records. Ambulance services across the country have reported a surge in demand as a result.
But if you have an urgent problem, you should contact your own GP surgery, either in person or by telephone. And if that's not possible and you're worried, then you are to go online and have a look at messaging from 111 or call 111.
It even affected software used by broadcasters, knocking some TV channels off air.
Wow.
Cafes, restaurants and shops were also left unable to process payments.
We've had a lot of problems with the card machine. The card's not going through.
I can't give you cash?
No signal.
You can't take cash?
We monitor trillions of cyber events.
The cause? A single update from this US antivirus company. You may not have heard of CrowdStrike before, but it has nearly 24,000 business customers around the world, many of them huge organizations like airlines and banks.
We stop a lot of bad things from happening.
We're deeply sorry for the impact that we've caused to customers, to travelers, to anyone affected by this, including our companies. So we know what the issue is. We're resolving and have resolved the issue now. It's recovering systems that are out there.
To be clear, this wasn't a hack or cyber attack, so you don't need to change any passwords. It only affected machines running Microsoft, but every single one will need a manual reboot in safe mode, which is not as simple as turning it off and on again.
Aha!
Says some people have to do this as many as 15 times.
Wow!
We're encouraged to keep our devices' software up to date, but there are now tough questions as to how one faulty update could have brought so much chaos. Vincent McAviney, BBC News.
The CEO of
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at this shit, should I? Just like I was laughing at the woman stuck in the sand. Go to Whitefish Bay, Wisconsin. This happened This happened 4 days ago. It was the 17th. So what was that? That would have been Thursday, Friday? Don't think this had anything to do. Thanks, Obama. I don't think this had anything to do with the RNC, but this is your police chase for the evening.
Traffic. I'm on Lake going south. I just passed
is a gorgeous neighborhood.
Nissan SUV, no plates. We're coming up to Capitol.
This is as American as apple pie. Caitlin's Harry Cooter.
Come on, man. 190-148, are you in pursuit?
Affirmative, he's pulling over just south of Capitol.
Is he pulling over? Lulling you into a false sense of security. Gonna take off again.
Kia Sorento, 1 occupant.
We had a Kia the other day.
Driver, shut off the car.
513 dispatch, north. 190 dispatch, I'll be en route to back her up if I get a mutual.
Shut the vehicle off.
Assist until we get there.
You're probably right, anonymously.
23 dispatch.
This is Wisconsin.
Go ahead.
I'm 1086 Village. I'm right here. What's your 20?
921, I'm almost 23.
3900 block of Lake.
I think they
Put
run
the keys
again.
in your hand.
150, I'm also
Put your hands out the window.
DJT. I mean, who doesn't want to get some Republican dick? Oh, wait a minute.
I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the
What are the
blowjob
cops
of
doing
life,
inside the
then
car?
I want you inside of me.
They're like throwing beer cans out the window or something. What is that noise? Here's one of them's getting out.
Just gonna approach. Okay. Well,
Okay.
never mind. Driver, turn the car off.
Wuss. Appears to be about 3:04 in the
All the way
morning.
down. Stick your hands out of the window with your key in your hand.
923 23.
Open the door.
I do see a hand.
From the outside.
Peepo Invest.
Turn the car off.
Oh, there he goes. Yes.
She's gonna be taken off. We're going southbound on Lake again.
I'm so glad we have hit the road again.
Get sticks out. That one.
Speeds are about 86. We just passed Edgewood. Traffic, look, she's moving. She's moving out a little bit.
190-148, did you ID the driver at all?
God damn.
You're trying to get her out of the vehicle, never approached. She's a black female with
She. It's a she this time.
just past Kenwood. Still going southbound on Lake. Speeds are 68. No pedestrians, no traffic, no drive.
Yeah, that noise is starting to annoy me. I just noticed it now that you said it. Why'd you have to do that to me?
Time keeping control of the vehicle. It might be OWI. Almost lost it. We're gonna be coming up to north in
You sure did. She fishtailed.
51.
Like, seriously, that is picturesque Americana as shit.
I'll pass you.
Just went through stop sign at Bradford. Coming up to the flashing.
We watch LA chases all the time.
She's slowing down a little bit. I believe she's going west.
But that's because they got helicopters to follow them.
We're gonna be passing a car on the left. They pulled over. pedestrians, speed 64, roads are dry.
I just picturesque American Pie.
Went through Kenilworth, stop sign. It's going to be a green Sorrento, no plates, black female driver. Almost lost it at Lafayette.
What is wrong with there's something plopping around.
Stop sign, Lafayette Hill.
That can't be the car making that noise.
We're going to be approaching Prospect in a second. Going to the Prospect. Clear. Speeds are 20. Going to the red. We're going to be going westbound. Went through another.
That Kia is giving them a run for their money. We are in a residential area. That was apparently a two-way street, but goddamn did it look.
Northbound to Newhall.
This one also apparently a two-way street, but woo, looks awful narrow.
Your catch.
Continuing northbound, just past Thur. Speeds are picking up.
That could be what it is, the cage in the back that separates the back seat from the front.
Continuing northbound, I believe it's still Newhall.
I encourage the cops to all get Teslas.
By the Urban Ecology Center.
Well, that's how you know it's a ritzy neighborhood. It's very well lit.
Found on Newhall from Bellevue. Speeds 26. Eastbound Webster. Northbound Bartlett. I'm right on her. We're going about.
Also a good point clinically.
No traffic, no pedestrians, roads are dry.
Oh shit!
I'm gonna need.
Oh fuck!
We're at Bartlett and.
Fuck! Why did you do that, cop?
Speeds 26. Eastbound Webster. Northbound Bartlett. I'm right on her. We're going about 25 miles an hour. No traffic, no pedestrians, roads are dry.
That wasn't an attempted pit maneuver. He just T-boned her.
I'm gonna need
Holy fuck!
Bartlett and Bellevue.
Was that intentional?
Bellevue.
Crash, crash, crash. I'm gonna need
Hold on, why?
Eastbound Webster.
If he did that on purpose, then that is
Northbound Bartlett. I'm right on.
absurd.
About 25.
If he was just, rushing to the scene.
Crash, crash, crash. I'm gonna need
Full speed impact. That wasn't attempted a pit maneuver.
Bartlett and Bellevue.
Dispatch copy, Bartlett and Bellevue.
Fuck. Yeah, fair enough. She ran a stop sign. He probably did too. It's probably a four-way. It might not be. Actually, I don't think it is. Now that I look, it does seem to be.
She's breathing. I'm sure of the driver.
God damn, they're lucky to both be alive if they lived.
921, we're going to need 2 paramedic units.
Your catch.
What a fucking crash.
Northbound Bartlett. I'm right on her. We're going about 25 miles an hour. No traffic, no pedestrians, roads are dry. Crash, crash, crash. I'm gonna need fire. We're at Bartlett and Bellevue.
One more time, I'm gonna even hit.
No traffic, no pedestrians, roads are dry.
I'm gonna need,
He throws his lights on. Because that's going to help things.
Crash, crash, crash. I'm gonna need, fire, rear end.
Why didn't he have his lights on already?
Crash, crash, crash. I'm gonna need, fire, rear end. Bartlett and Bellevue.
Dispatch copy, Bartlett and Bellevue.
Just crash with her. She's breathing.
Well, I'm glad she lived.
Sure of the driver.
Would you like to get the scoop on what happened? This was 2 days ago.
Crash, crash, crash. I'm gonna need, fire, rear end. Bartlett and Bellevue.
Dispatch copy, Bartlett and
Was
Bellevue.
this just the raw video?
Now you see it there. This is new
we go.
video of a police chase and squad car crash in Whitefish Bay. A Milwaukee woman is now charged. Now this happened Wednesday morning around 3 a.m. It started near North Lake Drive. Court documents say an officer spotted an SUV speeding.
Fair enough, Holiday. That makes sense. Yeah, he did have them on.
License plate.
Okay, yeah.
Pulled the car over, but the driver then took off. The chase lasted for about 4 miles. It ended as the driver ran the stop sign and hit a squad car. The officer inside the squad car was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Now, this is a look at 25-year-old Jamiqua Thur. You see her there. She faces 2 counts of criminal charges. One of them includes operating while intoxicated, causing injury. Thur appeared in court yesterday.
She's lucky.
Her cash bond was set at $5,000.
That's all the injuries she got. She is fucking lucky. Whitefish Bay, Wisconsin. Insane. We're talking about Ric Flair here in a second. First, yeah, let's do this one. We get a non-tabloidy. I don't know why I have a perverse. I shouldn't say it that way. Why I have such an interest in these types of stories.
Now know why 2 Janesville Craig High School teachers resigned. 15 Investigates uncovered a district investigation into inappropriate behavior between the teachers and a student while on a class trip. The former teachers are Jennifer Larson and Alexia Salderis. Both were business education teachers. According to the school's investigation, Salderis admitted to sending the student 5 photos of herself wearing lingerie. The report shows the 2 also admitted to sending inappropriate messages to students, saying they wanted to, quote, have fun with them. Police are now investigating to see if criminal charges should be filed.
They apparently offered to have a foursome. These women deserve a titty slap.
Titty slap!
Come on now.
Speaking of sexual assault, no, hold on, Spoke. My high school wasn't. There was shit going. So it never came out, but I am pretty sure that my my English teacher, one of them. So he was the English teacher. He did like English 2 or English 102 or whatever the fuck it was. It was like the sophomore English class. And then he did the broadcasting class, because like he was on the radio. Like he eventually became my coworker, but he was my teacher for the broadcasting class in my school. And there was a girl that was in class with me, and I liked her. She was my friend, but I'm pretty sure she was fucking him. She never told me that. He was so fucking weird with her and showed a lot of favoritism to her over me. I'm not upset about it. Once again, she and I were great friends. I am pretty sure she was fucking him, though. And she went to work a few years later at the Christian school that I went to for my 8th grade year. And she ended up getting fired because she got pregnant out of wedlock. Wild ass story. Ric Flair, outraged. He was left off of ESPN's greatest athletes of the 21st century list. Flair seems to have missed the part about the 21st century. I don't know that Ric Flair deserved to be on the greatest athletes of the 20th century either, but that's when his run was. It was in the math is indeed hard.
You take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning.
Now, to be fair to Flair, he had a 3 or 4 year run in the mid-2000s in WWE where he had some really good matches and some really memorable moments. On top, most importantly of them, the match with Shawn Michaels at like WrestleMania 25 or 26, something like that. Woo! A huge fan of Ric Flair, but he's also a creep. He is also a fucking creep, and he has gotten more eccentric and out there with age. Professional wrestler, he keeps making a fool of himself. Professional wrestler Ric Flair entertained fans worldwide for decades with his flashy style and tremendous in-ring work. Flair wrestled matches in every decade from the 1970s to the 2020s, though the bulk of his career as a top star was from the 1970s to the 1990s. Flair's in-ring career ended in 2011, except for one final match in 2022. Since then, he has stayed relevant by appearing with or for various sports teams, rappers, and commercials. This week, ESPN unveiled a list of the 21st century's 100 greatest athletes. On Wednesday, Flair took to his X account, seemingly unaware that the list only covers the past 24 years. How in the hell on God's green earth? I can almost do it as a Ric Flair promo. Shit. How in the hell on God's green earth is Ric Flair not considered to be one of the top 100 athletes in the world? I should actually be in the top 10, 16 world titles, as if he actually won them. Actually 22, 1,200-hour matches, 15 years without a day off, a cultural icon and worldwide sensation. Good Lord, so many people have lost sight of what greatness truly is. I never pulled out. You've got a few kids. I'm sure you pulled out a lot of the time, but you clearly came in some people. What a bunch of bitches. I get Tom Brady and all that, but come on, let's get serious. He's delusional, Drake. Delusional. He has absolutely dropped kayfabe. He has a podcast, or has had a podcast, gone back and forth with a podcast. Flair's post also mentioned he never pulled out of a match due to a calf muscle strain, which feels like a particular and pointed reference to someone on the list. Thankfully, Flair, I assume that's LeBron. Flair doesn't have an issue with quarterback Tom Brady being above him. The 75-year-old was a great wrestler and athlete overall in his time, but his time passed long ago. Now he comes off as a sad old man looking to relive his glory days. Yep, he is a very sad old man. I hate that it came to that. I'm sad that one of my heroes going out like that. Did you know that you can try different clown looks? I specifically wanted to give you nightmares tonight, Drake. I apologize. If you didn't see it the other night, I'm reusing. I put it in the Freak Show folder, but like, when's the last time I did a Freak Show? So, I'm sorry if you've seen this one already, but if you haven't, it's a treat for you. Here's Stone Cold with his cats.
Well, there they are, Poncho and Macho, checking out this new concrete we had poured out here in the horse barn. Just create less dust and easier to maintain. We pulled them out here yesterday and put them over there in a storage room, and they did good. And when they came back to check it out, they still don't know what to think, but I think they're going to dig it. It's dry, it's like a sweat. Poncho's playing hard to get today. Poncho.
Damn it, Poncho.
You let your pop-up at you? You let your pop-up at you? There you go. Hey, man, I missed you on today's workout. I trained traps and delts. God damn you, little fucker. He's playing hard to get. Macho. Yeah, I noticed the other day on the Instagram post, people were saying, hey, it looks like Macho has put on a lot of weight. Man, this cat has. We ain't even got him in the gym yet. He weighed 1.5 pounds when we got him. We got his shots about, 10 days ago. He was up 3.5 pounds, 2-pound gain. I think right now he's probably close to 4.
Week from tonight, we're back to 5 nights a week.
Workout, gonna eat tomorrow.
For real this time, I swear.
There you go, buddy.
If you're watching on Twitch or heading over to Echoplex Media,
I love you too.
Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN. I'm going to see you again before Thursday night. Probably Tuesday night, but who knows?
Happy 4th.
See you then.